Joining me now is Dan Urman, professor at the School of Law and the School of Public Policy and Urban Affairs at Northeastern University. Good morning. So glad you could be with us, Dan. So there's this smattering of lawsuits being launched by the Trump camp. They're inconsistent, in some cases asking for votes or counting to stop altogether of the votes, and then in other cases saying we need a recount. Overall, what do you make of the case or cases that President Trump is trying to make?
Good morning. It is in line with Trump's behavior. Actually, in some ways, it reminds me a little bit of the way that Al Gore behaved back in 2000 in Bush v. Gore, because Al Gore only was pursuing litigation where it looked like he could win, which caused people to produce sore losermen as opposed to Gore Lieberman t-shirts. You can probably find them on eBay. But basically, it makes it look like, Trump is going for heads I win, tails you lose, and I think it undermines his case. Bush v. Gore was a once in a lifetime set of circumstances that I just don't think we're going to repeat.
So in terms of strategy, and we're going to break down what's going on state by state, but in terms of strategy, do you think it makes President Trump look like a poor loser? It puts him in a weakened position?
I mean, he doesn't like being called a loser, but I think he is someone who doesn't like to lose, and he's always trying to sort of spin things. I think usually, this is one of the ways that Trump defies norms. Usually campaigns end when one candidate, like Hillary Clinton in the middle of the night in 2016, calls the other candidate. Basically what Trump is doing is saying it's going to have to be judges that do it because he doesn't like to lose or admit that he's lost. And I think every day that goes on, when people get turned off, that sort of hurts his public case.
And we should just remind everyone that neither candidate has 270 electoral college votes yet. This race is not over. I do want to ask you then specifically about Wisconsin, because right away the Trump team was asking for a recount. What's the criteria for even demanding a recount?
Right. So Wisconsin law says you have to wait until the votes are certified. That's December 1st, which of course feels like about 6 months from now. And once it's certified on December 1st, if the difference is under 1%, you can file a recount petition. What's interesting is the state will only pay for it if it is closer than 0.25%. And right now it is not that close. Actually, in 2016, they did do a recount. So some of the third parties did it. And Donald Trump picked up 131 votes or so. Right now, he's down 20,000. So my math isn't great, but that's a pretty tall order.
Okay, so let's go full circle then. Here he's asking for a recount in Wisconsin. He's saying that in Arizona they should keep counting. How do you square that circle?
Well, I mean, I think he's doing what anyone would do, and lawyers are supposed to make the strongest case for their client. I do think it hurts him in the quote-unquote court of public opinion. And I actually think the U.S. Supreme Court is watching this, and what they hope is that any case that comes to the Supreme Court is what lawyers call moot, meaning not decisive. Back to Bush v. Gore. Bush v. Gore was about Florida. The winner of Florida became president. And I think that Chief Justice John Roberts of the Supreme Court is hoping that whoever is ahead, and right now it looks like Biden is ahead by so much, that an individual state is not decisive. Like in sports, it would mean that basically, the score would not affect the outcome of the game.
But I have to squeeze in one last question then with you, Dan, because I still fail to understand how you even take the case to the Supreme Court. What is the case?
Great. So the case is that the Constitution says state legislatures get to determine voting procedures. And your argument is that maybe a Secretary of State, this is the argument in Minnesota, or a governor has basically stepped in and taken over state authority. That was one of the theories in Bush v. Gore. And just to remind everyone, 3 of the current justices on the U.S. Supreme Court worked as lawyers for Bush in Bush v. Gore: Chief Justice Roberts, new Justice Amy Coney Barrett, and Justice Brett Kavanaugh. So the theory is basically the Constitution makes the state legislature decide, and other actors are violating the Constitution. That's the theory.
Dan Urman, thank you for that explainer. Dan Urman is a professor at Northeastern University in Massachusetts.